Hi, everyone, and welcome to this special episode of the Passive House Podcast, recorded in Tarrytown, New York at the PhiusCon 2021 Passive House Conference. Before we get started, I want to thank Phius for putting on the conference and for coordinating with us on these interviews, as well as NYSERDA for serving as conference partner with Phius and community partner with us here at the Passive House Accelerator. Thank you, too, to Rockwell North America. Their generous support underwrote all of these interviews as well as our coverage of the conference. With that, please enjoy my interview with Ilka Cassidy of Holzraum Systems. Hi there, I'm here with Ilka Cassidy, who is co-founder of Holzraum System, and listeners of the podcast know Ilka well because she's also been guest co-host of the podcast on a monthly basis now for quite some time. I think our best episodes come from the interviews with you that you and Mary conduct. So Ilka, thank you for sitting down with me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So, how has the conference been? I know you just finished a panel, which I can't wait to hear about. I guess overall impressions of the conference so far.
Yeah, it's been really, really nice to finally see people in person again.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking to Michael that it just feels like since we haven't been able to do this, you just appreciate it so much more to finally see people again.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely very much enjoying the conference, and it's been great.
Yeah, me too. So tell us about this panel.
Yeah, so I just did this presentation together with 6 other women architects, and unfortunately, only 3 of us could be in person. So we had to pre-record everyone else. But basically, our kind of idea of this presentation was to just take a step back and look at not only Passive House certification, but also other certifications like Living Building Challenge, WELL, LEED, single family Phius certification, multifamily Passive House certification, PHI, and Phius. And then just really taking a step back and thinking about, okay, what does each certification do to the project? And does sometimes maybe certification kind of lead you in a way where at the end you might not make the decision that makes the project the best as it could be? With other words, does the plaque get a little bit more important at the end than maybe sustainability or even occupants' comfort or for example, indoor air quality, like health?
So sort of exploring the kind of the boundary there of where a project is almost about to certify, but can't quite certify unless you do something else, and maybe you don't want to do that something else. Were there examples of that you were discussing?
Yeah, so on my side, I was presenting, because I by now have done a lot of energy modeling with Woofy. So I've been Phius consultant for a while, and I think in the beginning, I really got caught. I like Woofy a lot. I really like how you can play around and how you get really instant just results, and it all makes sense. And in the beginning, I think that's mostly what I cared about. Like seeing those green check marks was just really awesome. But I think I definitely found myself, especially in the beginning, I think my first single family certified Passive House, I think it was under the 2015 requirements still, where we were so on the edge of the target points, and our clients didn't have a big budget, but they're so committed to Passive House. And they were just really just small decisions or big decisions, but because we are so close to those target lines, that really made a huge difference if we went, for example, with an exhaust hood in the kitchen. So that was really basically making or breaking the project. So back then I was like, oh yeah, the plaque is definitely more important than anything else. But I think after, a few years now, and I'm doing a lot of energy modeling, I have a little bit of a different perspective where I feel like, you have to step back and really think about what's the best for the project, what's the best for the person. So I now go into a project and say, you have to have an exhaust hood. And if that means we're not going to reach certification, I feel like it's more important to have good indoor air quality. And there are a couple of other things that I found, like solar heat gain coefficient on windows is one thing that I'm always on the fence with, because in our climate it's fairly, Woofy likes high solar heat gain coefficient, but now we've actually gotten some feedback back from build projects where there is actually overheating happening on certain areas of the building. And it's just, if you're new to Woofy, it's not something that Woofy tells you. So I think you can kind of easily get into this little trap where you're so happy that Woofy likes all of it that you lose a little oversight what it actually does then, inside the building in terms of overheating on the south side, or maybe having to heat and cool at the same time. We actually have a project where we have to do that. And there's no indication in Woofy that was going to happen. And because I was pretty inexperienced, I didn't know. So I was surprised when that happened. And then the other thing, I guess, there's been a lot of talk about embodied carbon too. And it's nice that it's a topic more and more. And I think I know that Phius can't incorporate that right now, but I think we definitely need to push that there's some kind of regard to materiality, the materials that you're using. Because again, in your Woofy model, it is easier to get your green check marks if you have, in our climate, if you have a higher hour value insulation material. And that most likely is not the hemp or the wood fiber, and it's also a little cheaper. So again, you have to make that decision. Is it more important to get a certified passive house with a lot of foam insulation, or is it more important to maybe have a little bit of a lesser energy performance, but you're using more natural material, which is at the end, better for embodied carbon and also for health, which I have learned here as well.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that session too. So there's this observation that sometimes certifications might feel rigid in terms of meeting the goals for the client and also perhaps sometimes for decarbonization and including health. So one of the ways that we as practitioners, I say we, but I mean you all as practitioners, can do that is sometimes forego certification, do all the modeling, do all the testing, and get close and forego certification. But another way that can change is for the certifications to evolve and to take in the feedback from the kinds of things you're talking about. And the work that Graham Wright is doing on that adorb cost equation thing, where he's looking at how to optimize embodied carbon, operational carbon, electrification, and those sorts of things in retrofits, I think is one example. So let's hear more from you about the kitchen range hoods and health. When we have a conversation about kitchen range hoods at the Passive House Accelerator, they're usually the most active and engaged and attended. So, and I know that was the case at this one. It was like standing room only, right?
Yeah.
So what did you learn there?
Well, I always tend to go to these sessions because they're just they just interest me a lot. And I think it's just what I learned is cooking kills.
Cooking kills.
Cooking kills at the end, but you have to do it. Yeah. So basically a recirc hood is useless. That's pretty much what they said. You have to have an exhaust hood. And Yeah, I mean, I guess that's not news, but I think the way they just really drilled into the details on, making observations and measurements, and then was just really eye-opening and very convincing, because I think unless you see it, you might not believe it, because also, as I said, the particles are not visible, so people just go and say, "Oh yeah, we don't need that."
Right.
And for them to just kind of lay it all out like this is just very eye-opening. And I actually had a client sitting in front of me, and I had been telling him, you need this, and these are the reasons. And he always kind of pushed back, and then he actually turned back and he said, "Yeah, I believe you." So that was good. So one of our part of our session was actually talking to Sayo. She used to live in the States, and she just moved back to Japan. And she's working with Phius to bring the Phius certification to Japan.
Right.
So we had a nice little talk with her and just asked her about what the differences were. And one of the things that she brought up was definitely it's more humid. We cook more. So I mean, the climate is more humid, but we also cook more, and we cook a lot of fish.
Yeah.
So there's no way around having an exhaust hood. But she said what's available to them is actually an exhaust hood with integrated makeup air.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a thought.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
so I
cool.
don't know how it works.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious to find out.
Right.
And I hope that that's something that's available to us soon.
Yeah, no kidding. No
Yeah.
kidding. That's great. Well, what else? What else would you like to add before we close up here? Is there any other impressions from the conference that you have, or I know we're going to speak with Steve soon about Holzraum. There's all sorts of stuff to talk about with Holzraum.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stuff to talk about, and I'm sure he's going to cover it all.
Okay.
But no, I think just connecting with people, and I mean, it's just so important to share knowledge and not live in a bubble.
Yeah.
Because we just have to learn from each other. It doesn't make sense for everyone to just kind of do their own thing. And just putting faces to names and being able to just really sit down and spend time and share. I think it's awesome.
Great. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks so much, Ilka. This has been great. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.